Hello and welcome to this week's episode of MT Squared, Minerva's 2-minute tactics for your procurement, where this week I want to just talk around catering and also really around tariffs for catering services within schools, in particular around universal infant free school meals and free school meal allowances, and what's been happening in that regard, because I get asked a lot of questions by our clients around what sort of tariff is acceptable, what are we seeing out there in the market at the moment. And unfortunately, it's not great news, as I'm sure you would imagine. There was a report that came out recently and it was called, I'm just going to reference it correctly, The Future of School Meals in England. Now, if you want a copy of that report, please do drop me an email and I'll very happily send it across to you, because it's really quite interesting in terms of the information that it provides. Now, a little bit of a health check, a warning on it. It has been written by a food wholesaler, so it is very much around supporting increases in pricing with regard to catering contractors. So you probably need to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt. However, I think the underlying data just doesn't lie, as figures never do. And I think that it shows a very difficult picture in terms of what the catering contractors are currently facing with regards to food inflation, national living wage inflation and so on, and therefore the challenges that they're facing in putting on a healthy and nutritious and portion relevant content for your pupils. It's becoming increasingly challenging. Just to give you sort of the main headline figure, between 2015 and 2023, so before yesterday's announcement of a further increase in the national living wage for next year, so before that happened, there was a 55.5% increase in national living wage. So that's between 2015, when universal infant free school meals first came in, and 2023. That's a massive increase. And if I then tell you that alongside that, there has only been a 10% increase in the funding for free school meals, so from £2.30 originally to now £2.53, you'll see that that is a huge difference between the two increases. So when your contractor is coming to you and saying that there's going to be a subsidy requirement, or when they're coming to you to talk about changes in menus, I would argue that working collaboratively, working in partnership with your catering contractor is more important than ever with the financial challenges. You know, my partner last night was sort of weeping about the fact that there's an increase in national living wage and how good that is. And obviously for some people, that really is a huge benefit. But for you in the schools environment, I'm sure all you were sitting there the same as I was, thinking, where's this extra money coming from? Because we know that our catering and our cleaning costs are going to go up and there isn't going to be any more money put in the pot. So I realise it's a very challenging situation, but I thought this report is really helpful because it does give you some context around what your contract caterer is facing. And just to give you some idea of what the output of the report is, it's basically saying that in order to really provide what is necessary and in order to mitigate those increases in national living wage and food inflation, you really need to be looking at a tariff around about £3.24 to £3.29. And in fact, Derbyshire County Council recently suggested to their schools that the paid meal price in the schools was increased to £3.25. So if you're anything below that, then you are obviously very competitive, but be aware that there are others that are charging more. I think the other thing that's important to mention is that whatever your allowance is, I know that in the past some schools have not necessarily passed all of that allowance on. So all of that £2.53 has not necessarily been passed on to the caterer, and it's perhaps been repurposed to bolster other areas of the budget. Completely understandable, not suggesting that's a wrong thing or a bad thing, but maybe putting forward that perhaps all of that allowance should now be going towards the school meals in order to really provide what is necessary for the pupils, which is a healthy, nutritious portion relevant meal. So I appreciate that this MT squared's gone on a little longer than normal. They're normally 2 minutes, and I realise this one's gone on a little longer, but I think it's a subject that is very, very important, and it's good to get some context to what's going on, particularly in light of yesterday's announcement, by the time you hear this, it was last week's announcement, that national living wage is going up again. So I hope that's helpful. As I mentioned, if you would like a copy of the report, I think it's really fantastic information in there, and great for when you perhaps go and talk to your head, your governors, your trustees, to give some context to what's going on out there in the world. So yeah, just drop me an email, lorraine@minervapcs.com, and I will happily send you a copy of the report. Until next time though, soldier on everyone.